Okay, we are live. This is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret: How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm joined by my co-host tonight, Mr. Darren Guai. Darren, how are you?
I'm good, Mr. Davis. Thanks for having me this evening.
Darren's coming to us all the way from Maine. And Darren, I see we have a special guest, Mr. Brian. Mr. Brian, how are you?
Pretty decent. Thank you for asking.
Where are you coming to us from?
I am in central Kansas.
Okay, Central Kansas. What's going on with CPS in Central Kansas these days?
Very, very difficult. Overreaching is what I'd say they're up to recently.
Well, that's not unusual. What are they violating your rights somehow, or have they taken your kids?
The children have been missing for going on 7 months now, and every right that I have seems to have been trampled so far.
What are they alleging against you?
Well, it was the most expensive way of finding out my daughter had a boyfriend, first of all. But they are alleging that actually some pretty terrible stuff, saying that I assaulted her on the way to school. And what had actually happened, and they boiled all that down, and they said it was because of I had hit her with a wooden spoon. So I turned a spatula into 6 felonies somehow. I guess that's what they're up to here. They boiled it all away and turned it into what they called a criminal threat. And that was a dad joke. There was nothing that they're alleging. The law doesn't work the way I always thought it worked.
Yeah. Well, Brian, let me tell you something. On my YouTube channel, if you've ever seen it, I have a video called What is Justice? And the summary of that video is justice is not what you think it is. You have, about 5% of what you believe justice to be is true, but you're only 95% wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So where does that leave you?
I'm bad with math, but that's not good odds.
So, is there any chance that the child is going to be returned, or when's your next court hearing?
I don't know. I've had 4 different judges so far. I've had 3 separate attorneys. They keep kicking it down the road. So it seems to be more of a recipe than just a random happening to me. I thought I was on this island alone. I just hadn't walked around the edge of the beach yet. It's full. This is being done to so many people. And it, like I said, it's a recipe. They have a different formula for slightly similar outcomes in different scenarios. But the one used on me is my ex-wife. Her current husband works for CPS.
Oh, all right.
He is abusing his work resources to make this up because he wants to move. Kansas wasn't good enough for him. He wants to go back to Texas, and the only way to do that was to have a strong enough case, apparently. So he pursued the career that allowed him to make a case up.
Brian, you said I'm sorry. You said your ex-husband works where?
It's CPS. It's a sidearm. It's I can't remember the acronym. CAPS, I believe. But yes, my ex-wife's husband works for them.
And is your ex-wife the mother of the child?
Yes.
Okay. So it's your contention that they dreamed all this up so that they could move.
Yeah, they've been trying to do this for quite some time, and this gave them the opportunity when my daughter's boyfriend, like I said, didn't know existed because she's not really co-parenting with me. He's the one that had turned everything in, so he fabricated the story, and then the husband can pretend he didn't lie because he didn't. He had this other kid do it.
So your daughter's boyfriend called CPS and said that you were beating her or spanking her or doing whatever they're saying to you.
It was I I dropped her off at school, and she went in upset, knowing that when she gets out of school that evening, we're going to have to talk to your mom. And the criminal threat I had was I was driving a vehicle taking a left turn off of a one-way street, and the stoplight was changing, but my floor mat had kind of wedged up under the pedal.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get through it. So the car barreling at us was not expecting me to stop right there, first of all.
Right.
He's looking at the light thinking it'll be green by the time I get there.
Mm-hmm.
So I told my daughter, I said, hey, maybe we don't have to talk to your mom tonight after all. At least it's going to hit us on your side.
Right.
That was what they called a criminal threat.
Wow.
Were you represented by a private attorney or a public defender?
Both. Currently, because the one I paid, I'm about 17, 18 grand deep in the one that hasn't done anything. And he had to drop me off of one case because what would have been a good enough win for him by this plea deal they got me, the fine print gotcha, which opposing team was fully aware of, was that if you're convicted of anything against one of the children falling under a person felony, they're automatically removed or defaulted to other party.
What state is this in?
Kansas.
Missouri?
Kansas.
Kansas. Kansas City, Missouri. You know, I just.
Right. Yeah, most of Kansas City is not in Kansas.
So Miss G was never a geographical scholar.
I guess I wasn't. You know, I'm sorry. I started late. I was on the phone with somebody. He told me he's from Kansas City, Missouri. The case. I'm like, okay. So I'm like thinking, is this similar? Because he said his ex-wife works for the Department of Children and Family Services.
But I'll bet you she could tell us places in Egypt that none of us have any idea about.
That's true. That is
Right?
very true. I agree 100%. I agree. But honestly speaking, Brian, how many kids do you have with this woman?
Two
kids. How old are they?
13 and 15.
Oh, wow. So they're not babies.
No, this has all been settled since 2014, but every time they held me in contempt for something, they were able to modify something else. So they were just changing little things here and there just to trip me up because they knew they could.
Right. Not a matter of if, it's when.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So originally what was supposed to, you guys got divorced and you just had visitation?
No, it was 50-50 joint split.
Okay.
Like there was, outside of me paying for everything, there was, it's always been difficult because she hasn't allowed phone time or followed the parenting plan as it were to be followed. But it was easier to not fight with her and just not have phone calls and wait for the next week for the kids to come back.
And that stuff was decided between you and her in a divorce, right? That wasn't CPS. That was all just your guys' agreement.
Correct. That was not, CPS hadn't interfered until last year now. Well, 7 months ago.
Right.
So the kids are with her right now?
Yep, exclusively. And they have stated that there is financial strains and burdens that my case has caused them, which I didn't have a case. I was trying to be a good parent and say, hey, I don't want to, but we're going to have to talk to your mom tonight.
Right.
Because she had been doing some stuff on the tablet the summer before. And they had been holding me in contempt and coming after me for different things. So I didn't want it being in the court system. That's business that we should try to handle here.
Yeah.
And then she kind of continued to lie, get caught in it, and to not, you're not afraid for your life of me if you're just trying to make sure your mom doesn't find out what you did last summer. So
right. So you're saying that your daughter made unrealistic threats, or not threats, but statements that you said you were going to slap her, or she was scared of you and all of this because she just didn't want you to tell her mom information about her.
Well, partially, yes, but she didn't report anything. It was this boyfriend that I didn't know about.
No. I mean, the whole thing came because you were going to tell your ex that she did so and so last summer or whatever, and she just, to avoid that conflict between you guys and you getting involved, she opted to tell her boyfriend, and her boyfriend called CPS to try to make something else come out of this.
Pretty much, yeah.
Understood.
He
But
went
how do
to
you know that your daughter did say that, though? How do you know your daughter said that? How do you
Because
know your daughter?
the court documents stated that it was third-party reporting to the vice principal, who then contacted the school resource officer, which, coincidental, I'm sure, the resource officer has worked with her husband for hundreds of hours, because resource and CPS being in the school.
Right.
Yeah. So they know each other.
Okay. The reason I'm asking you this is because I have talked to numerous kids who grew out of the system, and some of them were taken when they were teens, and they said that they never said the things that they found out later that they said against the mother or the father. So, or against both. And so oftentimes they say the child said, but is there any proof of that? It's their word against yours, but then the courts will always take the recommendation of the social workers and the court appointed attorneys and God knows who else, the minors counsel, their attorney. So they see them as professionals. They see you as the perpetrator. They see you as the aggression. They see you as the bad guy. So right now they're even thinking about any child, any teenager that tells the school that my mom and dad took my phone from me because I did something bad. They see that as abuse.
Yep,
And
trauma-based reporting.
Yeah, CPS has the right to go to the school, remove the child without your notification. I'm sure you heard about this. It's all over the news. So they're giving kids so much power because those kids are going to get them the funding. Believe it or not, the kids are helping the state and the county make money.
Well, he was aware that this was going to happen because this boyfriend of hers had been taken away by CPS when he was younger. So he knew exactly what to say and who to say it to for the outcome they were seeking to occur.
And that is true. That is very true.
So where is this? Where is this now? Where's this whole thing lie?
It's split into several different cases. I truly don't know. The lawyer I had is not. Well, I tell you what, everybody says he's the greatest, but I think that's for people that really did something they shouldn't have done. The deal he gets them works.
But the attorney that you have is a court-appointed attorney, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So why couldn't you find maybe a private attorney instead of dealing with a court-appointed attorney?
I believe I did finally secure one last Friday. But the primary reason I've not been able to is because nobody wants to touch this. It's such a mess.
All of them.
Messes. They're all a mess, man. Yeah. So don't feel like you're out there by yourself, dude. They're all a mess, man.
So the the attorney that you hired, he or she, have they handled juvenile dependency cases in the past? How many have they done? Is that what they focus on?
She's probably the best there is, and I'll be paying for this for a while. But what I had before was 5 years experience in administrative law only, and he was making deals for people that he had no business even handling the cases for.
Wow.
In my opinion.
Okay. And so she handled many cases, juvenile dependency. What's her success rate? Have you asked her that?
I don't need to. I've been trying to secure her for quite some time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, she's on her way out in retirement here over the next couple years. So she's been doing this for quite some time.
Okay, good. Have you sat down with her and maybe come up with a strategy? What's her strategy? And
just spoke with her on Friday and paid the retainer. She's not been able to even get most of my paperwork yet. So no, we're really just starting again.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad that you're moving that way because that's pretty good. I'm just so happy to hear that. Really, really am.
What is the department's goal? Like, are they trying to terminate your rights? Is that what they're shooting for? Or are they trying to?
They have to terminate my rights in order for them to move. And since it was the day I got fired, I was like, what can make today better? And then when I got home, there was a notice on the door. I was trying to be served paperwork. So I called the lawyer that I had, and asked what that was, and turns out he knew for over a month what it was, but pretended to look it up, and it was adoption paperwork.
Oh, nice.
So
who wants to adopt?
the stepfather wants to adopt my 2 children.
Oh, he can just kiss my Egyptian pyramids.
Yeah. Well, I found out I can't say certain things because that's a criminal threat. But yeah, then that's because he was aware of the fine print gotcha that my lawyer was either not aware of or it didn't matter for him. Because as the adoption paperwork came the day after, I would have accepted my plea. And that means that it said, what do we do if the natural father protests and says it doesn't matter? He's a convicted felon and he has no rights. Well,
David, is that true?
You're
I
a
didn't take
convicted
the plea
felon?
deal, so I'm nothing yet.
Wait. You're a convicted felon?
No, that's what they're trying to charge me with, a felony, so they can.
Oh, don't you worry about that. I'll be dismissed once they TPR you. Terrible.
No, we I'm glad you hired an attorney. Yes, I am so happy. You don't deserve to be without your kids.
Mm-mm.
And I bet you anything. You can come back on the show and talk to me or talk to us again. And I'm sure once you get your kids back, they're going to tell you, Dad, we didn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine there's a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Going to be that way.
That's
My
why they
younger
want to be silent. I
Mhm.
bet you, because there's a lot of social workers involved with the schools. A lot of social workers involved with the schools.
Mr. Davis, so I know that this personally, I know about this, but what do you do with everybody that's facing these felonies or they're facing these made up charges, whether they got into a criminal situation prior to, and that's what brought CPS in, or they were, CPS brought some sort of additional charges? I mean, ultimately, if CPS is going to use those criminal things against you, shouldn't they actually be waiting for an actual conviction to be coming in over an assumption of a conviction, or the judge uses her, I can't think of the word. Sorry about that. But uses their own references to make a decision about you, adverse inference. Shouldn't the criminal part be handled first? Don't you agree? And if so, how do you deal with that when your clients are in this double type standard?
Initially, as a novice attorney many years ago, I would agree with you, but I've gotten so used to the fact that it's the other way around. And, I've just been dealing with that as a mindset because the criminal case can be delayed. The CPS case can't be delayed. And they're not even technically related in the law. I mean, it might be the same witnesses against you, but they're two very different things, analytically speaking, from a legal standpoint. What I would advise him to do is make sure he has a good criminal lawyer. Sometimes, CPS lawyers also do criminal law, like at our office, but, make sure that you have a good criminal attorney and that the attorney is working with your CPS attorney, because this is a lot of things people don't realize. In the criminal case here in California, at least, you're not entitled to a bunch of discovery. Okay. But in the CPS case, you are entitled to a lot of discovery, and you can even call those witnesses as those people as witnesses and try their testimony and test their testimony in the CPS case. If you're just the criminal attorney, you don't get to do that until the time of trial or preliminary hearing. So you get, multiple bites at the apple. So it's important that your criminal attorney and your CPS attorney either be the same or they work closely together, because your CPS attorney has much more access to information and witnesses and discovery and can share that with the criminal attorney, because the criminal attorney doesn't have that same access. Did you follow that, Brian?
I follow, yes.
Okay. And Mr. Guay, I hope that answered your question.
No, yeah. I mean, I could compound it by many questions, but yes, no, you absolutely did. You definitely did. I just hear so many of these that in the criminals now you get. So let's say if someone, let's say, God forbid, he gets TPR'd, they come back and all those charges are dismissed. but yet the ruling court, the appeals court, doesn't want to hear it. They say that it doesn't matter. Because
it doesn't. It doesn't. Let me tell you why. Because the criminal case and the CPS case, although in your mind may be the same, related, they are really night and day. Criminal case, they have to prove by preponderance, by beyond a reasonable doubt.
Mm-hmm.
They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you're guilty of a crime. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Civil case, which is a CPS case, they have to prove either by a preponderance or clear and convincing that this incident happened. I'll give you the easiest example. It kind of blew people's mind. O.J. Simpson went to trial for killing 2 people. Criminal trial. He won. He was found not guilty. They took the same evidence, crossed the street into the civil court. They sued him. I think he lost like $45 million. So how does he lose that case but win the criminal case? You know why? Because in the law, they're not related. And there's different burdens of proof. If the state is trying to send you to jail, they have to prove something beyond a reasonable doubt. If they're trying to take your kid away, it's just preponderance of evidence. Now, in my mind, as a human being, it might, should be equal. If they're taking your kid away, it should be beyond a reasonable doubt. But the law doesn't see it that way. Our legislatures haven't made that the law.
Right.
They could easily change it by voting. They could easily change it tomorrow. But that's not the law right now.
Right.
So you could win your criminal case and lose your CPS case, and then you lose your kids, but you don't go to jail. Not that a lot of people would care about that. But go ahead, Ms. G.
No, I was just gonna say I'm just looking at him, and he just seems so just a father, just your dad.
I've never even had a cavity, so for the
I know.
things they're alleging against me,
That's what I'm looking at you, and I'm like, what is happening?
You're getting the death sentence for your first try. Your first anything. It's awful, man.
The husband has a better reputation. He's more well-spoken. He has better connections, and he didn't have a wooden spoon in his van. That's literally what they said. The boyfriend said, because they were making fun of it. I used it as a camper when COVID came, the work from home thing and the career that I had at the time. I can pretend my home's at the lake in the van. And van life isn't too neat sounding when it's a Toyota made out of Mini, but they knew there was a spoon in there. So all they had to say was that was there, and then corroborating evidence, or that corroborated the story that they had made up. Once they found the spoon, now it's just as he explained, it's a different burden of proof.
But everybody, I have the same exact spoon.
Who doesn't? Probably not in your van.
Well, no.
Maybe your purse, but
it might be in my purse, but not in my van.
Yeah,
I don't have a van, but I wish I did. But no, honestly, I mean,
you don't need a van, Miss G.
Honestly speaking, I mean, Brian, you've done nothing wrong. You didn't beat your child. You didn't cause bruises on your child. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's so sad. This makes no sense.
He's abusing all of his resources, and that's his job. He abandoned 2 of his own children to move here once my wife could not go to Texas, and now he brought one of his oldest, made a new one with my ex-wife, and has mine part of every year because of alternating custody.
You know what's so sad? He did that deliberately because I could relate to that story in many ways than one. It's like, especially when somebody has the legal power over the other parent, they would literally take your children and anyone's children, and they will get jealous if these children love you. They will get jealous if these children are close to their mom, for example. If it's the other way around, they get jealous of the relationship you have with your kids. So he's going to do everything possible to stop that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Kind of like he will take everything from you and keep his own, and most likely he's going to go against your wife one day.
Oh, well, that's, I believe, why he wants to move back to his home state. Yeah.
Yeah. And so anything she does, or if there's any argument, he's going to go against her and take his kid that he has with her, or he's going to have with her. So either way, he's going to he's going to retaliate against her as well.
In time.
In time, soon, hopefully. So I'm just saying, that you don't deserve to go through that. That's ridiculous, honestly. That's not imminent danger at all. I don't understand this. This is not.
That's the thing. They need to come out with what and what is not, which they do. Again, like I said the other day, because now, according to what he said, on this list of what child abuse and neglect is not, physical discipline, like spanking, as long as it does not cause bodily injury. All this guy did was just talk about it. So again, where's the TPR here? Like, what you're giving this guy the death penalty for having a spoon in his van. Like, that is not abuse and neglect. And that's from their own. This is from their Office of Program Evaluation and Government Accountability. But yet over and over, these are the things that they're hitching people on. This guy didn't do anything. And they're giving him so that's like, hey, you got a parking ticket today because maybe you parked your car there. Give him the electric chair. You know what I mean? Like, that's basically what they're doing here. Like, like the death penalty for something so stupid. A comment by a 15-year-old is now its weight in gold, and let's terminate this guy. He's not worth it. Like, this is just out of control. And Mr. Davis is right.
Well,
get in there and make these rules.
If they do that with a spoon, they're doing that with just a phone being removed from a child.
Correct.
So, I mean, if you really think about it, everyone out there listening to the show, Mr. Davis said something the other night about starting a, group of people in all the states, gathering them together to vote. And I think that's very important. And also my recommendation as well on top of that is to protest in every state. Because if they're taking our rights completely as parents, pretty soon we're just going to watch our children eat shit and we can't say anything. We're going to watch our children have sex in their rooms while we're outside watching a movie and we can't say anything.
Right.
So either you guys, all of us, we put a stop to it or we stop complaining about it. Because I'm looking at Brian and honestly, he's so sweet looking and a spoon, really, wow.
I mean, you had nothing in your past with this stuff, right? Like nothing.
No,
like you said, not even a cavity.
I had an MIP when I was a week away from being 21 by an undercover cop in a park wearing a Hawaiian T-shirt. And
whatever, right? There's nothing. I mean, like you didn't go out. You hadn't.
There is zero criminal history.
Little children or nothing. No.
But they don't need it. Right. They don't need the past.
I know. This is my point. This is what my point is. This guy has done nothing his whole life. He's been just fine, and because of an allegation.
Yeah,
and out of an allegation, he loses his kid. But yet, there's probably a kid down the street.
Done anything either? They don't have anything in their past. They don't even
have a kid down the street getting abused that they're not. They're just bypassing.
Yeah,
that probably has been called on 15 times.
It's a reputation-based thing. He has a better reputation in that side of things than
he doesn't have a better reputation.
Police officer, military person, now a CPS officer. So they're going to believe him. Regardless of what I say.
Brian, about the military, I have all respect for military because my dad was in the military. My dad was in the Army. However, there's a lot of Air Force men who take advantage of the system and they use that for their good.
The type of individual.
Yeah, it depends on the individual. Exactly. So honestly, this dude that she's with, man, I wish I can see him face to face. Damn. I wish. How long has he been a social worker again? How many years?
Probably about 3 now.
Oh, so he's new.
Mm-hmm. But he's friendly enough, and it's a small enough town that
so
he's he's great.
So he's a charmer, Brian. He's a charmer.
Yes, very much.
Charming. He's a charmer. There's a difference.
And I'm sure he's a fantastic fellow when it's not your family he's trying to rip apart. But
correct. Facts. Mr. Davis, Christina Laycock has a question for you. Did she ask you yet? I've seen that's been sitting there for a minute.
She didn't ask the question.
Oh, she didn't? I was wondering if she had.
That's why I put it up there to see if she wants to ask the question.
Right. Oh.
Hey, Brian, did you have any questions for me?
I'm sure I will about 10 minutes after we disconnect this, but I'm
like
not.
I said to you earlier, man, Miss G and Mr. Davis are the awesomest people that you would come across to talk to, man. So You know,
Well,
take advantage
well,
of
give
value.
it some thought. Give it some thought. And let me read Christina's question. If someone has POE, what's that, on them, how would that affect their ability to be around children, elderly, and special needs victims in the state of Missouri? Christina, I can't intelligently answer that question because I'm not a Missouri attorney,
Preliminary order
and
of
I haven't been given permission by the state of Missouri, pro hac vice, to practice in that state yet. And I don't know what POE means. Do you have any idea, Brian?
I've not heard that one.
Miss G?
Never heard it.
Darren?
preliminary order of something, I'm going to guess.
Order of what?
Protection order.
Hmm.
See, that's what they did to me. That was part of the recipe. They put emergency protective orders through before anything had been decided. So now everything's on pause because of the adoption. So what you were talking about earlier, it's kind of cart before the horse type stuff, but that's just the way it is.
Okay, here it is.
Preponderance of evidence.
Preponderance of evidence.
Christina, I'm sorry, but I don't understand the question.
I think she's saying that if you like Maine, and what do they call it, substantiated, that's what they get on preponderance. So like she hasn't gone through the things yet. They've found her guilty, maybe. You know, that first wave that they find substantiation. Is that what she's talking about?
I don't know.
Victim in the state of
Christina, give us some clarification. And by the way, Grace is still here. Our producer is still here. Christina, if you email grace@vincentwdavis.com, you do it quickly, I'll bring you on the show in the next 10 minutes. Maybe you can tell us what you're talking about. Okay.
And Charlene Strang or whatever her name is, Charlene, you cannot ask to be recorded. You have to request it from the judge, and it's up to the judge. Am I right, Davis? The judge has to approve recording.
You know, I don't think I took a dumb pill, but I don't understand that question either.
Can I
request audio recording during the next hearing?
Mm-hmm.
See, I would like to do that as well. Like a cell phone audio device recorder.
Oh, can you record the court proceedings?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in California, the answer is a resounding no. I think I know it's a crime. I don't know if it's a felony or not, but you can't record judicial proceedings here in California. So the answer would be no. You know, in California.
But she can get the transcript, right? She can request the transcript.
Oh, yeah, she can request the transcript. But what I think, and maybe I don't know this for sure, what I think she's saying is, you know, sometimes the transcript is wrong.
Yep, it is. I'm it's wrong.
No, what happens if someone does go into court and that they record it on their phone or whatever, and then like you guys were just saying, the transcript doesn't match that recording that you have in the courtroom? What do you and how? Because now you've broken the law by recording it, correct?
The reporter broke the law, but she's protecting the judge.
So what do you like? You can't come out and say like, "Whoa, I didn't say this," or "I didn't," because then you're in trouble, right? You're in a double-edged sword at this point. I'm not condoning or saying people should break the law and do that, but what do you do if I was your client, Mr. Davis, and we're in California, and I recorded it? What would you come out and say?
Well, I would tell you to destroy the recording.
Oh, wow.
All right? And I would tell you that if you bring it up at all, you will probably be criminally prosecuted and fined. I don't know if it's $5,000 or $25,000 for each illegal recording. Now, you do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go to jail for a year and pay $25,000? That's up to you. But you know what? The prohibition is so strong in California that it can't be used in any court case anyway. So you did it all for nothing. Mm-hmm. You broke the law for nothing.
Now, what about the rule of anonymous? What if an anonymous tape just showed up to check the evidence? You know, like if someone had something that just showed up in the courtroom, is that another thing that wouldn't be allowed?
It's not admissible.
Got it. So bottom line is, don't get yourself in some sort of trouble doing it, because it's not going to help you in the long run. It's just not going to matter.
Correct. Now that's the rule in California. I understand, this rule is different in a lot of different states. It's what do they call it? In California, it's two-party. Both parties have to know. I mean, when you're in a court proceeding, what do you got? 6 or 7 people? They all have to agree.
Hmm.
But if it's just a conversation between you and me on the phone, we both have to agree. Now, some states are one party.
It's Kansas is.
Just one party has to know. And I never really understood the analysis of that one party rule.
Right.
If I was talking to you, I could record it. But if a third person entered the conversation without them being aware that I'm recording it, I could no longer do it.
Interesting. Now, see, that may be a unique rule to Kansas.
Yeah.
Because I know other states interpret that rule differently, which, I keep telling, Miss G and Mr. Guy, the law is whatever people say it is, whatever the legislature votes.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow the legislature could vote that you go on green, that you stop on green and go on red. It's just the law.
Well, that would be mayhem, wouldn't it?
Right. So, and unfortunately, Christina, did you contact Grace at vincentwdavis.com so I can bring you on the show and so you can answer or ask your question and tell us a little background, because I'm truly lost about your question. Go ahead, Brian.
I do have one question, if I may. So what type of punishment or ramifications would her husband be facing now for abusing the office? Because it just rubs me wrong that the guy that abandoned his kids somewhere else, his job is to now go into homes and evaluate whether or not they're fit to have their kids. Like, that is his job now.
Right. And so I don't know that there is any thing that you can do about it. And here's something, Brian. I don't want to seem like a cop-out, but I do want to give you this advice because it was given to me. Things that you can't control, you shouldn't worry about, because it's just going to destroy you inside. There's nothing that you can do about it. If you want to get even, there are a lot of things that you can do through the legal process, but do you have that extra $50,000 lying around to hire, the best attorney to do it? Somebody called me the other day and wanted to hire me, and they had a case in Florida. Now I'm in Los Angeles. And in Florida, the going rate for this type of case was about $10,000. And I wanted to charge much more because I got to travel, right? It's a 4.5-hour flight, a 5-hour flight. Well, they just expected me to do that, to travel there on my own dime, to pay for my own ticket, airplane ticket, round trip, and to pay for my own hotel and stuff like that. Why would I ever agree to do that? Right? And then they're pissed off at me because I wouldn't do it.
That's awful. What the heck is wrong with people?
People expect interest. People are very interesting with their expectations of what lawyers do or lawyers should do.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what comes when they get there.
We want you to come to Florida, Mr. Davis. Yeah. Do our case. We'll pay you the same as we pay the local Florida attorney. Not a problem.
Yeah, let's start with a $1,000 airline ticket. Let's just start there.
You get here on your own.
Yeah, rent a car. Miss G can't drive from there to Florida. So you got to get a plane, rent a car.
Miss G, would you drive? Would you drive me to Florida?
Sure. 4 days. Take you 4 days to get there with my little car.
You
definitely one of those travel things. Get you one of those roof things. You put on the top. Just stack it up, and off you guys will go.
Sorry, I don't have a hard time.
Davis hitting the road,
Darren, do you know what kind of car Miss G has?
Please do not tell the public.
I do not know, but I picture it like the Wayne and Garth thing.
Let me tell you something. The little camper, it wouldn't fit on the top. So That's
but
out.
You
That's
don't mind
out.
asking me to take you to court hearings and trials. In
Yeah,
that
because
little.
I'm not
Mr.
spending the
Davis,
night.
not for nothing and mean and dose respect, but I've only seen you from the head up. I mean, you're not a little guy, so a car can't be that little. I mean, you don't look like,
I can't. She doesn't want me to tell what kind of car she has, but it's little. Okay.
It's the seats all the way back. Then is what you're saying.
It's
Okay,
little.
like two small people can sit in the back.
No, they can't. Nobody can sit in your back seat.
They can.
The
Your
rest of
back
that
seat is
sentence
just a
was, and still
storage
press the
area.
pedal in the front.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? No, guys, don't make fun of it. It's a nice car. It's
sure
a nice convertible car.
I didn't say
And
it
it's an
wasn't
Italian
nice.
car. So
I didn't say it wasn't
Volkswagen Pug.
nice. It's just small.
it's not.
Look, Shaquille O'Neal could
It's
not
like
fit in that car.
He can't
Okay.
fit in any car. You
Well,
barely
first
need
of
a
all,
motorhome.
Shaquille O'Neal is 6'3".
No,
or
he's more than
no.
No,
that.
he's like 7 foot.
Yeah.
7'3"
or
His
man.
hands the
something like
size of
that.
you.
Yeah, so one woman, me, and two people in the back can fit.
That's funny.
Okay, well,
Darren,
Yes, sir.
Darren, no one can sit in her back seat if she's driving and there's a passenger. It's not possible.
okay. Do you remember when we went to court and my next door person?
Oh yeah, I remember
sat in
that.
the back, and she was sitting comfortable. She told us.
No, she was not
You're
sitting comfortable. She was like crunched up like that.
No, she was not. Oh my God, no.
Get out, go to the hospital. She had a blood clot going through her leg from sitting there jammed in their car.
No, you're exaggerating a little bit. Vincent.
Why don't you just tell Darren? Why don't you just tell Darren what kind of car you have?
It's the Fiat.
Whoa. No one can get in the back of those.
Yes, she did. She got in the back. I had two friends who sat in the back.
No. There was one woman in the back.
Me personally, you're
Twice.
not with me 24/7. No, they do sit in the back.
Are they still your friends after you made them get in the back?
Right.
Okay, look, Brian, I'm on your
Not
side.
really.
I know.
Yeah. You're gonna gang up on me and the men with the men. See, men stick together. I don't have a female
First thing
sticking
Mr.
up for
Davis
me.
does is put the back seat down and fold it up so we can get his seat back there so we can sit.
You know, I was a little impressed. You know, Brian, we don't have very many male guests on the show. And you know,
I think we should sit by a book.
here's the interesting thing.
The first male book.
Here's the interesting thing. YouTube gives me statistics and stats on everything that you could possibly think of on the audiences.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that my audience, I think, is like 67 or 68% female?
That's because of me.
That doesn't surprise me any, but no, I didn't know that.
I would think maybe, you know, what's wrong with 50-50? I mean, are fathers just not interested? Do they just not know about it?
For me, it was, I didn't know what resources were available. I've been muted entirely because I'm not allowed to talk to their doctors or their educators because that would be a third-party violation of these emergency terms. So I've been just personally scrambled to find who can I talk to, who is available, what are there, and many of the resources I found, much of what you've just described, it was more female-driven for the audience, and nobody would take my questions or really acknowledge that I'm even there because I wasn't the demographic that they thought should fit, I guess.
You know what? How did you find out about this show?
This morning, I was contacted by your assistant, Grace. I wrote something on the book face about just kind of yelling into the void, and then I pasted that same thing into an ad came up. It was a sponsored ad. So the phone spying on me showed me what your show was.
Those are working.
Oh, we're not spying on you.
No, not you. Just the algorithms said, hey, he's interested in this type of material. Check out this resource. So I sent what I thought was just going to be a page. I sent that same message to, but it was the chat interface. And somebody responded and said, hey, would you like to be there tonight? Apparently.
Interesting. So, but it was social media. You found us through social media.
Yes.
Facebook or YouTube?
You could have found,
Yeah,
right?
it was the
Best
book
thing you
face.
could have found was these two right here.
Is what?
It was Bookface.
Bookface. Okay.
Book phase. What's Bookface?
It's the one, the big,
The
Yeah.
Facebook.
yeah.
Oh.
The Facebook.
He's not on social media. I'm glad we found you or you found us. I'm glad. By the
I
way.
told him, make sure you get these numbers and write these down, especially Miss G's. You know, these people are genuine, true people, man. He was asking, he's like, he hasn't been able to find anybody that'll help him out. Or I told him, hands down, two best people you can find with that. So make sure you get in touch with them and do whatever.
Ryan, do you have any other questions for me this evening? We're moving towards the end of our show.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm sure I do. If there's really nothing I can do to him directly through CPS, just as an employee flexing his authority into areas that he doesn't because it benefits him personally, if there's nothing I can do about that, then
well, wait a minute. There's something that you can do.
Man.
Okay. There's always something you can do. Whether it's economically feasible, that's a whole nother question. Okay. I'm going to assume for a minute that you have a tree in your backyard and that it grows money. Okay.
that'd be neat.
So, with that assumption, you can file a lawsuit for civil rights violations. You can hire the best attorney in your area, and you can go and try to prove the allegations that you're making right now. There's something, though, that you should understand on the flip side. If you don't prove it, okay, and you've sued this person incorrectly, erroneously, they could come back and sue you for wrongfully suing them. In California, they call it malicious prosecution.
Yeah.
In federal court, they can sanction you for bringing a frivolous lawsuit.
Now, would that be anything I could use against them for what they've done to me thus far?
Maybe, but I need to know a lot more about your case. And what I would suggest that you do is you find a lawyer in your area and you sit down with them and you pay them for like an hour consultation on possible civil rights claims that you may have. Now, the lawyer may tell you, Brian, you have a great case. It's multi-million. Or they might tell you, Brian, you have a case. It's worth $1,000. So you decide what you want to do.
Brian, you know what? I'm not a civil attorney, but I think you have a good case based on what you're saying. I think you have a good case. And I know that they do lie in the reports. They do make up stories. They make you look like you're the bad guy. I get that. But you do have a good case. The only thing is getting a civil attorney.
And like Mr. Davis always says too, don't forget, you can make those complaints, right, to the department, the one in Washington, contact the ombudsman. There's a lot of avenues that you can go to the ombudsman in your state, use whatever they have in your state, the resources. They have complaint lines from your state right up to the federal lines. Keep hammering them. Write the attorney general's office, tell them what's going on. Tell these people what this guy's doing. If you're not lying and you're telling the truth, man, tell these people what's going on. That's the only way people are going to hear that this is happening, and the only way we're going to break this thing, So the ombudsman, go to the ombudsmans. That's the way I would say, get your complaints in.
You're muted.
I'm sorry, what did you say the resource was?
Mr. Davis, do you have that off the top of your head for the federal one?
Yeah. So if you want to make a complaint against a social worker, you can make a complaint with the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C. They provide all funding and federal regulations regarding all of CPS in the United States. The other thing that you can do is you can make a complaint with the U.S. Department of Justice, the Civil Rights Division in your area. And if your state is a county or a state-run CPS system, you can always make a complaint to the Capitol. Making a complaint locally doesn't do very much, in my experience, because people are covering
same team
their butts, with respect to things like that.
And a lot of people say that Mr. Davis's recommendation about the federal going to DC, they make noise there.
So Brian, I don't know if you remember this from civics in high school, but we have a system of justice at the state level and at the federal level. And the reason why we have two different systems of justice is because the federal level justice was supposed to protect citizens from their state governments, right? That was the primary reason. So if you're having problems with a state actor and you don't think you're going to get any remedy in state court, go talk to the feds. That's what one of the things they do. You know, a lot of people, especially conservative, are states' rights people until they get their personal civil rights violated, and then they go talk to the feds about it. You know, and that's the whole one of the traditional views of liberals versus conservative. You know, a strong state government or a strong federal government. You know, Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and all those guys were arguing about that. You know, 200-300 years ago, and it's still an issue today. But it's your right as a citizen to use the federal government to try to protect you from state actors who you believe have violated your rights or who are corrupt.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, Brian, I want to thank you for being on our show this evening. And if you have any other questions, give me or Miss G a call. Be happy to talk to you, okay?
Brian, my cell number is right here on the screen. You can always text me and I will call you. You see it right there?
24/7.
Yeah. And
It's like a coffee shop, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you.
And
all right,
also,
Brian.
I will send you, Brian, Davis's book about all the different hearings pertaining to CPS courts.
That'd be fantastic.
Hey, Brian, I wrote a book. It's called The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. Take a look at it. It's geared toward California cases, but the concepts are the same, and you could talk to your lawyer about it. Okay?
I'm finding a lot is applicable from California bleeding out. So,
well, the reason is because under federal regulations, they pretty much have the same scheme or system of justice and CPS cases all across the country. There are laws that are different. That's why you should check with your local attorney. Okay, Brian, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, folks.
Poor Brian, man.
Any questions or comments before we end tonight's show?
No, it goes to show you that you don't have to have a past. They will, if they want to retaliate against you, they will.
That's me. You got everybody's number. There's no hiding. You know, like you can't say that if you're black and poor and you're white and poor and you're whatever. These people have no boundaries. They just, they just go forever. They go after. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, and they don't care. A lot of people, like this guy I was talking to today, he said because he's black, he's being retaliated against. And I said, I don't think it has anything to do with color.
No, really doesn't. We proved that on your show that time. You remember we did that when it was kind of like a 50-50 split down. It was the 60,000 black children, 60,000 Spanish, and 120,000 white. Like that's it was crazy.
Right.
So this thing knows no boundaries at all, except for if you're rich and in Hollywood or you're a firefighter or a cop or another CPS person. I mean, if you're in with the family, they're all set.
Or a district attorney or a judge, all of these people. If they're connected with the system, you pretty much have a losing case.
Mm-hmm.
And that's right, Mr. Davis, or
so they say, Miss G. So they say. Okay, folks. I'm going to thank you for joining me, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's show is going to be at 6:30.
6:30. Put that down in my book.
6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, you may call me Christina, but text me first. Please text me first. I'm doing the prayer show right now after this show, so text me and I will call you back when I'm available.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Everyone, stay tuned for Miss G's prayer show, CPS prayer show. All right, folks. Good night.
Good night.